is up, guys, and welcome back to GameBird Weekly, episode number 10. I'm your host, GameBird Classic. Joining me, my co-host, Collin from Any Games Necessary. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Not much, man. Just been hanging out, playing lots of games, enjoying
Hell
all this
yeah,
gaming news.
that's what I like
Have
to hear.
have you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. We've got an exciting show for you guys today. We were covering a number of topics. Today we're going to be talking about a potential Switch 2 reveal landing in March. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation State of Play and demo of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well as an interesting poll that Capcom put out asking about sequels and remakes. We're going to be talking about all of that and much, much more. But first, if you guys enjoy this content, hit that like button, smash that subscription button, and smash that notification bell. And do me a favor, check out Collin's channel, Any Games Necessary. It'll be linked in the description box below. Collin, I think you have a new video out today, is that right?
Yeah, it's my review of Pal World.
Nice.
I spent about 18 hours in it, so maybe for some people scratching the surface, but I think I've got a pretty good idea of what the game is about at this point.
Hell
So
yeah. So
go
definitely
check.
check that one out, guys. And without further ado, I say we dig right into the first topic. A leak slash rumor, more of a leak, I'd say, from a popular insider, Nate the Hate. He discussed this in his podcast. Um, that he's heard from sources that Switch 2 is actually going to be revealed in March. There's going to be a presentation for that. And for those of you who don't know, Nate the Hate, he's a popular YouTuber. He has a lot of inside connections, and his track record is pretty darn spot on, especially when it comes to Nintendo Directs and Nintendo Direct format slash timing. He's had a lot of interesting things to say about Switch 2, and a lot of those things we've heard come up lately, like LCD, 8-inch screen, stuff like that. But I want to talk about this Switch 2 March reveal and kind of gauge our thoughts on this. What sort of format do we think this would be? A full-size blowout direct? Do we think this could be more of like just a teaser and then the blowout at a later time? Colin, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think of this timing? What do you think Nintendo's like first sort of reveal for Switch 2 is gonna entail?
So I'm thinking that they might follow the same kind of path that they did with the initial Switch launch, the
Mm-hmm.
original Switch. I think they're gonna play some like dorky, weird commercial, um, like of like people that don't play games
Mm-hmm.
playing video games on whatever the Switch 2 is. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a showcase style showcase where they're like showing off a lot of games. I think it's going to be very similar to the first Switch. And March makes sense for timing.
Mm-hmm.
We had predicted that it was going to be like late summer, early fall release,
Right.
and the initial Switch was announced in October 2016 and released early March
Yep.
uh, 2017. So I think that we are looking at almost the exact same amount of months. So like
Right. It's
five.
like fits into that window that they did
Yeah.
before.
So I think this all makes sense. I think in hopefully a week, we will have probably like their last Nintendo Direct that focuses mainly on the Switch and like kind of what we can expect in like the last few months of like the Switch going into the Switch 2. But
Right.
I don't, yeah, I think they're gonna announce the Switch 2 and then the heavy hitters will come maybe a couple months later, maybe like 2 months, 3 months prior to launch. They're gonna announce the big games.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think the format that makes the most sense to me is doing more of a commercial style trailer. Um, and I imagine there's probably going to be some Switch 2 gameplay snuck in there, kind of like what they did with Switch when you could see like Breath of the Wild being, someone's playing it and you see it on the screen of the console, but it's not doing like a full trailer. Maybe it montages some stuff that you'll be playing on Switch 2. But with that being said, my question for you is, it sounds like we're both in agreement that March makes a lot of sense. It's probably going to be more of your commercial style trailer. Do you think they'll show off at least one big game reveal in this? Like, do you think it could end with a game trailer? Obviously, not direct style where it's a bunch of announcements, but maybe it does like the commercial and then it ends with like some sort of a bang.
I think that I think there's a good possibility they might show off a game. Another thing that I've thought about is maybe like as an Easter egg, they'll be showing something like in the background on the TV. Like my thought is maybe like the new Mario Kart. Like people watch it and it might look similar to Mario Kart 8, but then they'll be like, I don't remember that level. That's
Right,
weird. You know? They might do something, sneaky like that.
right.
Uh, like hidden in plain sight. I'm sure, lots of video game sites will do like breakdowns of the commercial. But
Right, where they're like trying to find all the clues and all the weird hidden Easter eggs that we might not see at first glance.
yeah, so I think there's definitely a possibility. Or yeah, I mean they could do something after the commercial. I don't remember if the Switch had they showed off any games after. I don't think they did, right? They just showed the
They showed the Switch in the commercial, but I believe, unless my memory fails me, I believe that commercial showed on the Switch. It showed clips of Mario Odyssey, which we had never seen before, I believe. But
okay.
I
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. I kind of could see them having some sort of a Metroid Prime 4 tease be on there where you don't see the game and gameplay, but maybe you see like Samus's ship go by, or maybe you see a logo like someone's about to boot it up, you know? I could see them teasing a game or two like that, or maybe showing off games that are if it's backwards compatible or if they are bringing older games
Mhm.
but now in 4K and DLSS and all that ray tracing and good all those goodies. Maybe they'll show off some stuff where they'll show it on the Switch 2 and then it pulls up to a close up of the game and you're seeing the Switch 2 version of a game that we already know of and have played, but it looks stunning. Like it looks like holy crap, this looks incredible. You know what I mean? I could see them doing something like that as well to where they're not spoiling all the surprises.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would like that. I mean, you and I would go hard for a Metroid Prime 4, but
Yes.
I
Yeah, yeah.
think like the general audience, like I think like a Mario Kart or an Animal Crossing or a Mario game would be like
Right.
the one to,
Yeah, totally.
but I love Metroid Prime 4.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so I'm thinking something in the Mushroom Kingdom
Yeah.
or Animal Crossing is going to be like the like sneaky game in the little
Yeah, I think that those are great guesses. Um and they could even sneak I mean they could sneak some smaller scale stuff into there too that shows quick glimpses. One game that comes to mind that I know people have wanted ported to the Switch for a long time is Xenoblade Chronicles X. And some people have theorized that that game might actually get more of a proper remake, kind of like how Xenoblade Chronicles got that definitive edition on the Switch. Maybe that one gets some sort of a remake and they kind of just tease it. It's smaller scale, it doesn't really blow any big announcements, but might be cool to see there. So I guess that leads me to another thing is that if it is true that we're getting a Switch 2 reveal in March, do you think that means that we're not going to see any more um, big titles per se come between now and the launch of Switch 2, because part of me feels like if we're getting the reveal, that kind of sucks the wind out of any Switch announcement that follows, especially if there's backwards compatibility. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe if there's backwards compatibility, it boosts the hype for the game. But do you think it kind of lessens the hype?
So you said sucks the wind out, and I still think that that Wind Waker
Sure.
um, remake is getting ported to Switch, and I think like like if I feel like remasters and remakes and stuff are kind of like the sign that this thing is it's on its way out.
It's on its way out, yeah.
But I think like I know Breath of the Wild was day and date with the Switch too. I mean, Nintendo could be like, we've got a game ready to ship that's, for both,
Mm-hmm.
and they're ready to ship it like July or something. I don't
Right.
know. I mean, they could. I mean, they could look at their install base on the Switch. They could look at like their release window, and they
Right.
could be like, we don't have anything after Princess Peach. Like, let's give them something to tide them over until the Switch 2. But yeah, I do think like the Switch 2 steals the thunder, especially from like hardcore gamers.
Right.
I think, 10-year-olds, like 8-year-olds, like younger kids aren't gonna know, you know.
Right.
Like they're gonna be wanting to buy the next Mario Kart game if that's something that's in the cards for Switch and Switch 2. So
Cool. 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 Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. But I want to ask you before we go on to our next topic. We don't have a let's get nuts section for this episode. However, let's get a little nuts here. I want to hear one prediction about form factor for the Switch, or what you think it'll look like, something that separates it from what we have now. I know I'm asking you randomly off the top of your head, but if you could give one thing to predict, it's a let's get nuts, so why not?
I think it's gonna be Triforce shaped. I'm just kidding. No. um, I want to get nuts with this, but like I feel like it's just gonna be iterative. I think it's just gonna be sleeker, more, like I mean almost like looking like the Switch. Um, yeah, I'm hoping new controllers, new Joy-Cons, new different types. Even or ditch the Joy-Cons altogether. Um, yeah, that's man, I wish I could be more nuts, but I just don't think that this one is going to be nuts.
How
What
about
about you?
this? How about this real quick? Uh, this one might be a little bit easier to go nuts with. Let's try a name.
A
Name
name?
name the hardware. You could say Switch 2. That's what like the internet's been calling it forever. I'll just say this. I personally don't think it's going to be called Switch 2. Just based off of Nintendo's histories, they, you know, they just don't do that. And the one time they shared branding, and I know branding wasn't the only problem with the Wii U. It didn't really pan out for them.
Huh. I'm trying to think. Um, oof, that's gonna be tough to like figure out like a name. Hmm. What about you? What do you got? I'll think.
I'll throw a few out there. There's a popular one that a lot of people have called it the Super Switch, the Nintendo Super Switch. I think that's pretty cool. It's a throwback to the Super Nintendo. Um, uh, if there is maybe uh, if there's maybe a dual screen factor to it, which I know that's not really in your line of thinking, and we talked about this with Andres. He doesn't really think so. I'm not ruling it out completely yet. Assuming that it does have this feature, they could do some sort of a throwback to the DS with the dual switch, or the Switch Dual, or the Switch Duo. So it's like a DS or SD kind of acronym, might be kind of cool. Or the Switch Ultra,
That'd be cool.
the Switcheroni and cheese.
Switcheroni and cheat.
Comes with a free bowl of mac.
I man, I'm blanking. Like I think I don't like I think if they're gonna change the name, they're not gonna do Switch. You know,
Yeah,
they're not gonna switch in the name. So like I mean they already did Codename Revolution.
yeah.
Uh gosh. I'm trying to think of like an acronym that they would use. The Nintendo Hybrid Advanced Console. So the no, I can't.
I kind of
Man,
like the hybrid advance. What
yeah,
you just said, the
the
Nintendo hybrid advance.
console. Yeah,
It sounds expensive.
yeah. The Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES is just such a cool.
It's
Like
so
the last,
cool.
like so, like I I feel like they're gonna come up with some cool acronym,
Yeah,
but I don't know what
totally.
it is. I'm not smart enough.
Fair
Uh,
enough. Fair enough.
the Nintendo. I'm trying to think of like if they could do NOVA, if they could call it the
The
Nintendo
Nova.
Nova. Yeah, so
Mm,
like um but I can't think of like anything for the OV and the A. But if they could do the Nintendo Nova, I think that would be a cool name.
right. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I like Nova. All
Yeah.
right. But let's move on now to our next topic. PlayStation. They had two state of plays. We talked about the first one. That was their main state of play where they made a bunch of game announcements that were coming this year and beyond. But they also did a second state of play that was more of like how Nintendo does their game centered directs. And this one focused on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which comes out later this month, I believe February 29th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
February 29th.
and same day, they released a demo. Before we dive into our thoughts on the demo, Colin and I both played it through. Let's talk about that state of play because they showed off a lot of really cool stuff. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I didn't think I could get more excited for this game, but like holy crap. Yeah. What a state of play. Like I mean, this game just shows incredibly. All the different mini games. I know this is your first time, like your first foray into the like I know you played Final Fantasy VII, but you didn't get like super far into it.
Right,
It is crazy to me re-seeing like the Juno scene where they're marching and you're playing that mini game.
right.
It's awesome to see that they made that dolphin part that was in the original a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it looks like the Fort Condor is back in a certain
Yeah,
way, and Fort Condor is a really big part of the game, the original game. So it's super cool seeing the golden saucer. I could go on and on about this. Like
yeah.
I absolutely loved this trailer. Yeah, I cannot wait.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, dude. This trailer or this state of play in general just floored me. It blew my mind. I thought this game looks phenomenal, and my first thoughts when it wrapped up was, this looks like a game of the year contender. We're at the beginning of the year. I'm like, holy crap! This might be one of those games that you just know is going to make it into the nomination. The game's gorgeous. The music's fantastic. I think they said in the state of play that they added over 400 new songs or new rearrangements to the game, which is really really cool. Um, the open world looks fun. It looks like it's going to have way more diverse questing than Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is really cool. But a lot of the systems also that they added, there's a social element to it where you build like almost like friendship slash relationship with different characters in your party, and that can affect who goes with you to certain parts of the game and quests. I thought that was really really cool. When I got to talk on the podcast about finishing Intergrade and my thoughts on that, I was praising the synergy system and saying how I hope it'll make its way into Rebirth. And it's here, and they've kind of reinvented it a little bit. So that has me really, really excited. They added kind of like what kind of reminded me of a sphere grid in this game, but to level up and build out your synergies with different characters in your party. So cool. So it just looks like there's so much here. obviously, like it doesn't really need to be said. The characters and the story look fantastic in this game. It was just a really cool trailer. Like you said, I didn't think this state of play could sell me harder on the game, and it did. I was already at a 10. Now I'm at a 20. So
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many cool little things in the trailer. Like, there was a part where I think Aerith and Barrett were synergizing, and she is
hmm
wearing sunglasses that I just thought was so cool. And what you mentioned about the social thing. So the original Final Fantasy VII had a moment in the Gold Saucer, and based on your choices, like of dialogue choices, because there were some light dialogue choices,
right,
um, you would end up going on a date, uh, either with Tifa,
right,
Aerith, or Eris back then, or Barrett,
right,
if you were mean to both of them. So like, I think most people were like intentionally mean to Eris so you could go on a date with Tifa. But
right.
it sounds like you can go on a date with Red 13 this time, and
Yeah,
I don't know who else is at the Gold Saucer at the time, like because
right,
they're messing with the timeline a little with this one. So I imagine maybe you have Sid before you end up there, and then maybe Kate Sith, and then
right.
it looks like Yuffie's a much bigger part of this game.
Yeah.
In the original was an optional character, so it's
Mm,
really cool to see her get a spotlight, you know?
right,
Especially with like Integrate, and with this one, it seems like she's front and center
right.
for all of it, and well deserved. She's a cool character, so.
For sure. I was gonna say it looked like to me, and maybe I read the state of play wrong. I didn't know that because I didn't get far enough in the original Final Fantasy VII. The farthest I got was outside of Midgar when you finally get into the open world, and then for whatever reason, I never played beyond that, which most people consider to be the best parts of the game. I missed out on. But from what I gathered from this trailer, it looked like that sort of like uh, friendship dynamic with the social aspect is going to go beyond just that one story beat in the
Yes.
game, which is like super exciting. I love that sort of stuff. So if that's the case, and there are other moments in the game or other little side quests where depending on your relationships it affects your party and stuff, I think that's really cool.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. One other thing I want to mention in that trailer, towards the end, there's a part where Cloud is saying that Genova can be anyone, and then he like turns his sword on Tifa.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
that looks gnarly. Like, I don't remember. Like, I mean, uh, flag me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but I don't remember that in the original. So
Right,
that's exciting. Like, it seems like they're taking it a whole new direction, and like I'm even gonna be like, like there's gonna be shocking moments for me having played through Final Fantasy VII, I think two or
right.
three times. So yeah, super
So
excited.
I have one huge thing that I'm curious about with this game. Um, and this could just be like pure speculation, but obviously, and I'm not gonna drop any spoilers because I know there's a lot of people who are playing this game for the first time. Final Fantasy VII, the original on PS1. It's an old game now. A lot of people were born years after it released and stuff. So for a lot of you watching, this is probably your first time playing Final Fantasy VII. So no spoilers, but um, there is a certain character in the story who dies, and it's a big moment in the game. And I'm curious because there have been changes to the story if this game is going to play out the same way with that character death, or if someone else might be dying in this game, or choices that you make affect who lives and who dies in this game. Because I know that there are certain changes to the story. I'm just curious if Square is going to somehow subvert expectations and shock people with that one.
I mean, I think there's a good chance that the event might still happen.
Mm-hmm.
or there's a chance that, they change the character or no one dies at all. To your third point, I I just don't know how Square's gonna like do the Dragon Age tapestry to
Sure, sure.
like I feel like that's such a gnarly thing to have to do, a separate game for people who's, I don't know, who lost Sid or
That's true. No, that's a fair point. Speaking of
like
Sid, though, speaking of Sid, I never got far enough to meet Sid or have Sid in my party, but just from seeing him in this trailer, he hits all the right notes for a character that I feel like I'd really like. So I'm curious to see what Sid is like in this game.
he's awesome in the original, so I'm a little bit bummed because I think they did confirm that Sid and Vincent won't be playable
Playable in
characters,
this one.
which, I mean, we got Red 13 now, so I
It's
mean,
they're
doesn't
gonna
mean
save him for the third game, I think.
yeah, so I'm super excited to play as them in the third one. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll be having a good time playing as Kate Sith, so
Right.
who
And it's
cares about
funny, like I mean, you and I, we both gave praise to Sony's state of play right before this one, where they announced Death Stranding 2. They showed off more Dragon's Dogma, um, but more Stellar Blade, a bunch of cool stuff there. But I gotta say, as amazing as Death Stranding 2 looked, this one had this state of play, even though it just covered one game, had me more hyped. I was just like, this looks so amazing. I can't wait to play this. Um,
yeah,
but but
same. I've been really down on Sony.
right,
I had been really down on Sony in the past, and I still think some of their business decisions weren't the greatest, but man, they're having a killer year. They're having it
totally,
or the third party support at least,
totally,
got some really good games coming out, so super excited.
for sure. But before we move on to the next topic, that wasn't the only thing they showed off. They also dropped a demo for the game. There's a second demo that's on the way soon, but this first demo was more of a linear chunk of the game. It didn't let you out into the open world content. The second demo is going to offer that. This one was more linear, very story heavy, and right off the bat, really, really freaking good in my opinion. So let's get your thoughts first. What did you think of this demo?
I won't delve into the story. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, especially people that are going to be listening that are catching up because they liked the what they showed so much.
Sure.
So I thought the story was great. I think they told that portion of the game very well. I think the gameplay is vastly improved from what I played last time.
Yep.
I did I don't know if you messed around with the settings, but it defaulted to graphic fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the chance to play it in graphic fidelity and I switched over to performance. I do think it runs quite a bit better in performance, I
Yeah.
will say. But yeah, I mean, playing as Cloud was very snappy. It
Right.
was a ton of fun. I won't spoil the other character you get to play as, but it was a ton of fun playing as that character too. Um, I think the combat feels a lot better. I noticed that they added abilities that you kind of use for free. I don't remember if those were in the original. Um, it did, yeah, it felt really good. Um, I did try the piano playing in the house.
Mm-hmm.
That is really hard. I struggled really hard with it. I don't know if my brain can work in that way, but I was
Right,
just like,
right, right.
I can't do this. What about you? What were your feelings on the demo?
Oh man, this demo was so good. It was perfect. It was like a perfect little slice of the game. I agree with you. The combat feels better. I feel like they've updated Cloud's mechanics in this game. So he feels a lot better to play as. They added the synergy, so I got to play around with the synergy system. It works a little bit different in this game, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they did something really cool. Um, uh, I don't know. The combat felt really, really good, and playing as that other character was super hype. I just felt really cool. I was like, this is so awesome that they let you do that. The music, fantastic. Storytelling was really good, and visuals. I too played in graphics mode. I didn't switch to performance, but since I
Mhm.
knew this was a linear slice of the game, I'm like, I'm just gonna stick through it in graphics mode. When the final release comes, I am gonna play in performance because I imagine, especially when the game opens up to like the big open world, that's where it's really gonna strain on graphics mode and probably have more of those frame rate issues. So full release, I'll be playing on performance. But no, it was fun. I really enjoyed the piano game. I wasn't too bad at it. I almost got the S rank on it. I got A twice, and I think my second A was like 200 points away from the S. Yeah.
Jeez. I got C rank, and like to inform the audience, C rank is anywhere between 0 and B rank. So that does not mean that I passed. That
Right,
just means
right,
that the game gave me a C. Um,
right.
yeah, so there's that. Yeah, the music in the game is incredible. Got to
It's
mention that.
insane, especially when like like in the story of the game. Without spoiling, I encourage you guys go play this demo. It's out. It's so good. Let it get you hyped. But man, some of the, like there's some pretty intense scenes, cinematic scenes in the demo, and man, when the music starts to like build up and it's just got like this haunting feel to it, where you just like you feel the terror, you feel the helplessness. It's so cool.
It is. It's amazing. Yeah, I love the demo. Yeah,
Yeah. Are you going to be playing the next one that comes out that's less on the story side, or?
I'm like I'm tempted to like, but I want to see if it carries over like the first part of the demo did.
Sure.
If it does, yeah, absolutely, we'll be diving into it. But like, the idea of like running around in the open world and then having none of it count,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, it might make me a little bit bummed to like,
Right.
yeah, to do that. What about you? Are you gonna?
Yes, I'm definitely gonna play it, but I'm probably just gonna play a limited portion of it because I do want to save all the first times and all the surprises for when launch comes. But I do want to run around. I want to get a little bit of a feel for like the synergy system with the party. Um, I actually just read something today that sounded pretty cool. Apparently, after you finish chapters, I don't know if you saw this, you can replay chapters in this one, but when you replay them, you could remove Cloud from the party and
Oh,
fully choose your own party. I was reading about today, which sounds really cool for like kind of, if you want to trophy hunt and go back and work on some of that stuff or finish some side quests that maybe you didn't finish. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I want to check it out. I just kind of want to see how it looks and feels and kind of how the mechanics have changed with the party. But again, I'm not going to like absorb tons of time into it and like scour the whole thing and see what it is because yes, I will be playing this at launch and I do want to go into it as like as ridiculous as it sounds, as blindly as possible, given that I already played a demo and watched the state of play and every trailer they've shown thus far.
I know. Yeah, I'm with you. One more thing I wanted to say about the
Yeah,
demo that really impressed me is like I feel like we're finally seeing like what the power um and like performance of like the PS5 can
sure.
really do. I mean, like with Spider-Man just switching between the characters on the fly, it was crazy to me because like, when you're running around, you were running around as Cloud, but like when it goes into battle, it switches, but it switches so seamlessly to the other character. I was like, it was jarring, like how quickly it did it because I'm just so used to like, games going to combat, having to wait and then like, press a button, wait for that to do the change. And it was
Right.
just instant. It was like, yeah, super cool. Like, finally starting to see like what all this power is for. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, no, I feel you. But with that being said, oh, folks, I'm sorry. We just got another breaking report from one of the greatest investigative video game journalists of all time, Chip Daniels. Chip Daniels, we're going to you live on the scene.
Chip Davis here. Rumor has it that this spring, Xbox is going third party, meaning all of their Xbox exclusives are going to be available on all platforms. Gamers, the console wars are over. Back to you in the studio.
And we're back, folks. Wow, that was a fascinating yet extremely informing report. Chip, you're the man. Thank you for that. Collin, what are your thoughts on this insanity? Xbox going third party, releasing their exclusives on Nintendo and PlayStation consoles? Can this really be happening?
I think we might have to wait to find out because I heard there might be a press conference next week.
That's right. I heard too. Chip, you didn't mention that in your report, but we'll let it slide this time. Yeah, like people are losing their minds right now online. Xbox fans are in full panic. I actually have some live footage at what's happening outside right now among the Xbox community. Check it out. As you can see, it's utter chaos. Collin, what is your prediction on this? Do you think Xbox? We know Phil Spencer is going to be making some sort of announcement next week, but do you think Xbox is going third party, or do you just think this is them putting more everywhere?
I think some of this panic that's going on is a little bit weird.
Sure.
Like I think you know people need to stop being so gatekeepery, especially with like it's a console, like it's not it's not your life, it's not
Yeah.
um I would say it's not your sports team, but I don't care about sports either. Like I don't
Right.
care about your sports team. So like yeah, I don't get the whole panic. I mean, the one thing that I did hear brought up is kind of the like losing their digital library, and I do not think that Xbox is going to be doing that. Like, you know, I think there's always going to be a way to access all the games that you've bought from the Microsoft store. It's not like Microsoft is going away. Microsoft
Right.
exists. They're going to have a way for everyone to play their games. But yeah, I think it's a smart move on Microsoft's part. I mean, like Game Pass is stagnating a little on the sales, on getting new people in, and they need to make money somewhere. So why not put some of their most popular games on third party console on other
Right.
consoles? Like they could be third party as a developer, but still be first party for Game Pass.
Right.
Like people will get sick of paying $70 for a game that they could be paying for Game Pass instead.
Right.
So I still feel like Xbox is going to be the best place to play those games that are on Game Pass already. Yeah.
Right.
And there's no like verification that it's going to be day and date. It could
Right.
be a year before, and it some people may say like Sony's not putting their games on Xbox, but Sony's putting their games on PC now.
Yeah.
Like as we're getting to that point where it's just like if you're not Nintendo, then like you're not really you're not really selling me on exclusives for the
Right.
most part when like everything's getting ported over to PC at the very least.
Right.
Like I like playing games. I don't care about what box I'm playing them on.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so I think it's a win for everyone when, you know,
Right.
uh, com-
Do you think that this could potentially be the last Xbox, or do you think we'll see another Xbox?
so me personally, I think we might see one more iteration on the Xbox X, X, Y, and
Mm-hmm.
Z X,
Sure.
or whatever they're gonna call it. Um, and then I think because I'm just not quite sure by the end of this lifespan that streaming is gonna be at a point where they need it to be for
Right.
them to go all digital, like play on your Samsung TV or
Right.
play, you know? So I think until the point where they've proven that like streaming is just as good and works just as well as like putting a disc in a console or downloading a game, like I think they'll still stay in the console business, you know?
Right. What about the
Um,
possibility of them switching from like your more traditional home console that Microsoft has always done to going to more of the tablet route like Switch and Steam Deck, and the tablet works more like a Series S where it's, some sort of a hybrid Game Pass machine. So it's Game Pass at home, Game Pass on the go. I know that they have Game Pass available on like Android and stuff like that, and it's available on PC. But could you potentially see them shifting away from doing a home console and just doing some sort of like their own proprietary tablet that they sell, and it costs less than maybe a Series X?
um, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I could see them partnering with someone to make a tablet.
Sure.
I couldn't see them doing R&D on their own. I think
Right.
they kind of want to move away from that space altogether, it seems
Right.
like. So it doesn't seem like they would want to work on, like and like there are already devices like the Raj Ally that does Game Pass on it.
Right.
I mean, I could very well see them partnering maybe with like Epic and putting
Mm.
like Fortnite stuff on Game Pass and and partnering with them to do like some sort of device that runs the Epic Game Store and Game Pass, that's
Right.
kind of like their like direct competitor to like the Switch. What about you? What are your thoughts on this news,
Um, I mean, I think it's pretty wild stuff, and obviously we're gonna find out more. It's no secret that Xbox has really struggled on the market. It's in a very, very deep third place, and I can't imagine any way that at least this gen they catch up from a hardware standpoint. And you also have to think about when you have studios, even though you run the studios, when you have a studio like Bethesda, who makes games like Starfield, and they've got an Elder Scrolls 6 in development, and they have there's an Indiana Jones game coming out. When you think of like these huge games, for those games to be stuck on the worst selling platform is like, it just doesn't make much sense. You know what I mean? So to me, from a business standpoint, it makes sense to try and get your games on as many platforms as possible. But I think you make a good point. Sony, most of their exclusives are coming to PC. Typically, it's at a later time. It's like 6 months to a year down the road. To me, I see Xbox going that route. That makes a lot of sense. First on Xbox, first on Game Pass, later on Sony and PlayStation. I mean, if the rumors are true, Switch might be getting Hi-Fi Rush. That's almost a year later for Switch to get Hi-Fi Rush. Indiana Jones, I imagine, will be, not a day one on. If it's truly coming to PS5, I imagine it's not day one. So I don't know. Like, I feel like Game Pass is phenomenal. It's extremely consumer friendly. It sounds to me like it's just not as profitable as Microsoft needs it to be from a business standpoint. So maybe releasing those big games helps sustain Microsoft's gaming division and helps keep Game Pass afloat and doable. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably ultimately a win for Microsoft and a win for consumers. As
Mhm.
scary or as much of a bummer it might be if Xbox decides not to put out future hardware.
Yeah. I think the worst part about it is like I think it gives Sony leeway to be more like less consumer friendly
Sure.
on the road. Because it's kind of the only like high-end upscale console, so to speak. Um, I also think that, their finance team probably sat down and when they were acquiring Activision Blizzard, crunched the numbers to see how much money they'd lose if they just put Call of Duty, versus like new people coming to Xbox.
Right.
And they probably looked at it and they're like, we're making so much money on PlayStation with Call of Duty, like, why not put our other games there? We can make more money?
Right.
And I'm sure Phil and his team understand like how important consoles are to some hardcore gamers and the amount of people that they're gonna piss off. But I think, when finance runs a number and like, you know, the shareholders and the heads of Microsoft are like, we could be making more money on this. Like if we
Right.
just put the game on PlayStation, they don't care about the rivalry. They care about the money.
Right.
And like that's what it's gonna be about. Like and
Totally.
like they don't want to piss off their fan base, but like there are like for every one person that's sitting and listening to like podcasts like these, there's probably like 400 like 999 others that don't care, just want to play their Call of Duty game annually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it just makes sense
Right.
from like a business standpoint. So yeah.
It.
Thoughts?
I mean, it would be wild, man. If Microsoft drops out of the console space, it's basically you've got Sony and Nintendo who really don't compete with each other anymore at all. Nintendo's doing its own thing, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it's wild. If Microsoft leaves, and hypothetically, we got another company to enter the console space again, would you root for a Sega? In an imaginary world, Sega's like, we're back. Would you
I
be
think
about it? Or would you be like, just leave it to Sony and Nintendo?
I think Sega makes incredible games. I think they're a great software company. I do not think that they need to re-enter the hardware market.
Right,
I would argue like the best versions of a lot of their games came out
right.
on other platforms, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
yeah.
like someone's gonna try at some point. I mean, we've already had like a lot of failures as far as like Google putting out its streaming console and Amazon's. What were they called? I can't even remember their names. They were so forget. There was the Ouya,
Amazon Luna?
Luna. Yeah, that was the Amazon one, right? Amazon Luna.
Google's was can't remember the Google.
I can't even remember. I gotta imagine someone's gonna be like, "Oh, Microsoft's gone. Someone can fill that space." I feel like someone's gonna try, but I
I
feel
don't
like Microsoft being successful at it was kind of like a phenomenon, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only like people I could see getting into that market, and this is just like wildly speculative. I have no proof of this, but another big news story this week was the Disney um buying into Epic
Right.
for
One
like
point five billion dollars.
$1.5 billion. So they definitely believe in the gaming space. I mean, I could see them partnering, like Disney and Epic partnering for like their own console.
That'd be so
and then,
weird.
and then maybe like the only other like I don't know why Valve and Steam would want to, but I feel like if they like left the PC market space and did their own Steam console, I think, they have enough backing behind them. They have enough
Right.
clout in the gaming industry to maybe pull something
That's
off. But
true. No, I think you're right. I think Steam could be successful at it. I feel like it would be called the Steam Machine.
there we go. But like, why would they want to?
Yeah.
Like they're already making money hand over fist.
Right.
Like,
Well,
you know,
also, isn't the Steam Deck somewhat like dockable?
it is dockable, yes.
Yeah, so
So
they already have a device.
they have a device, but it plays PC games.
Right.
So like, I mean, people call them Steam games, but they're PC games. But like, if they played Steam video games, like their own proprietary disc or
Launch
whatever, or
launch with Half-Life 3. That'd be a
well,
pretty
yeah,
big deal.
that'd be a big deal. But yeah, I could see the Xbox fan base migrating to
Sure.
this, but I don't know if there's too much of a, they could carve too much of a market. Yeah, so who
Right.
knows?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, with that out of the way, let's jump in to the next topic. Capcom dropped a poll, and this poll was a list of a bunch of games. There was actually two polls. It was a list of a bunch of games, and they were asking consumers, would you want sequels to any of these games? And we're having people vote. And then they did another one. It was a smaller list of games, but it was asking consumers if they would like to see remakes of this specific list of games. Definitely a very, very interesting way to gauge the consumer. And Colin's going to go through that list in just a moment. But I do want to add, this poll does not mean that Capcom is actively working on any of these things. I think it's just their way of gauging, like, hey, like, would it be worthwhile to start development? Is there a interest in these IPs? And who knows, maybe if one or two or three or a handful of these get overwhelming support, Capcom might think, hey, this is something we might want to look into. This is something we might want to start developing. But Colin, before we dive into our thoughts on this list, why don't you read out those games for first with the sequels and then the remake list?
Yeah, of course. So there's 20 options. Capcom asked people to choose 3. So there's Darkstalkers, Okami, Onimusha, Ace Attorney, Street Fighter, Sengoku Basara, Dino Crisis, Dead Rising, Devil May Cry, Dragon's Dogma, Toraware no Paruma, I have no idea what that is. First Capcom, Resident Evil, Final Fight, Breath of Fire, Ghosts and Goblins, Monster Hunter, Lost Planet, Mega Man, and 1942. And then the survey asks, which of these 9 options would you like for remake candidates? Onimusha 1 through 3, Ace Attorney 1 through 3, Commando, Rival Schools, Niji Rocho no Kiseki, Final Fight, Breath of Fire 1 through 3, Gargoyles Quest 1 and 2, and Mega Man 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the lists. Yeah, is there any that you would like to talk about?
Yes. There are a few on the sequel list that I would really, really, really love to get. Onimusha is a standout. It's one of my favorite Capcom series of all time. Capcom released a really crappy remaster of the first game. I wish they put more love and thought into it because it's a series that really would be so cool to have a revival of, and I feel like that remaster did it no justice and probably even hurt its chances of getting people excited about something new. But Onimusha 1 through 3, I'd love to see a 4th game or a remake of that trilogy or the first game in a modern engine. I feel like in a lot of ways, Onimusha is like the OG Dark Souls and Neo. You know, you're a samurai, you're fighting these undead, feudal Japan, undead samurai and merchants, and collecting their souls and leveling up your weapons. You have these really cool demon bosses that you're fighting in the game. Really cool stuff. Fun story, really cool cinematics, great characters. Another game on that list is Okami. I really want a sequel to Okami. Okami is one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of the best Zelda likes out there. Art style is gorgeous. It's this watercolor, very pastel-y. Imagining it in 4K on modern hardware, what they can do visually is, to me, would be breathtaking. The game has great charm, cool story, really cool bosses, and imagining also that game being done with modern hardware and really opening up this like big pastel watercolor open world experience sounds really cool. Couple other standouts: Mega Man, of course. It's Mega Man. It's fantastic. I'd love a new entry as well as a remake of maybe the original, or a remake of some of the older games. Seeing those classics that we know and love with the classic bosses being done in a more modern engine would be really cool. And then I think the last one that I want to throw out there that I'd really like to see is Breath of Fire, a new entry in that. I love RPGs, and you know, it's not something that Capcom's putting a lot of different entries out. Obviously, we have Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out, which is it's like a Western RPG, but to get a cool modern turn-based JRPG or semi-turn-based would be really, really cool from them. What about you?
Definitely. All right. So yeah, my three choices definitely. Onimusha is my number one. Just like you, it's one of my favorite games ever. Uh, the second one especially,
Right,
which is a weird choice. I know a lot of people like either one or three a lot.
right,
But yeah, the second one holds a place like near and dear to me. I even liked Onimusha Blade Warriors. Um,
right.
yeah, it's upsetting because you see games like Neo do so well, and we got Rise of Ronin coming, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, come on, guys, like the formula works. It works. Um, yeah, I want them to make a new Onimusha. Um, yeah, it's just so weird. Capcom gave this one no love. They
Mm-hmm.
put out Dawn of Dreams, which was like a dumpster fire of a game, and then like you said, they did like a half-ass port to PS4, and it's just like they're just like, well, I guess no one likes Onimusha anymore. It's like, no, people love Onimusha. You guys just like completely destroyed the franchise with like,
Right.
yeah. So I'm glad that they didn't list Onimusha 1 through 4 on that list of remakes. Um, yeah, because Onimusha Dawn of Dreams belongs in like it needs to be buried and just like never spoken of again by Capcom. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Another one that I'd love to see a sequel to that we haven't gotten since the handhelds is Ace Attorney.
Mm.
Like those games sell great. Um, I know they've been porting them to Switch slowly but surely, and
Right.
um, they've been getting great reviews. I mean, they're fun games. Like they're some of the best visual novels I've ever played.
Right.
So I would absolutely love a sequel to the Ace Attorney games, or even like a soft reboot would be cool.
Right.
Um, they did list it on the remakes. I don't. I those games are already perfect. The first trilogy is
Right.
already perfect. No need to touch it. No need to remake it. No one needs a remake. Just
Right.
want like a new game. Um, and then my third one is Sengoku Basara.
Mm.
Um, so these games, most of these games didn't release in the West. The one that did was called Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes, and I think the other one that released was called Demon Kings? I think it was Demon Kings. It was a PS2 game. It had like Nobunaga on the cover.
Right.
But I'm like a huge Sengoku nerd. So like
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love these games. I loved their takes on the characters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a series called Samurai Warriors, which is made by Koei Tecmo, who also made Neo, that covers the same period of time, and like they cover it in a very um serious tone. Sengoku
Right.
Basara is like kind of more like silly and weird, and the characters are definitely like interesting, and like I loved like all the different things that you could do in these games, as far as like you'd play as one character, you'd finish their path, and then you would unlock another character as part of their path, and like there were like 4 different ways to beat every characters, and there's tons of secrets, and yeah, it's just a really really cool game. I'd love to see like their modern take on like the Dynasty Warriors formula. I don't feel like we get
Right.
enough type of games anymore. Um, so yeah, so that would be my other one. And then obviously, like I know it says pick 3, but Mega Man is another one that I'd love to see them take another bite at the apple.
Right.
Um, I know that the what is it, 9 and 10? 9 and 10 were wildly successful. They kind of went off the rails with the what was the latest entry? Was it 11?
It was
Yeah,
11. Yeah.
yeah, 11 kind of went off the rails, and like they tried to, you know, do something different with it, and I don't think it worked out. But I mean, I think it would be cool to get another numbered sequel like 12 back in like the 8-bit style, but I really want like a new take on Mega Man Legends. I think that game was way ahead of
Yeah.
its time. I think Metroid Prime has proven that that formula works in a 3D
Right.
environment. And
I,
like,
I was just about to add, I like Mega Man Legends remake to
mhm,
gauge interest in it would be really, really cool.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, a Mega Man Legends remake, or they did toy around with remaking 1 through 3. If they did 1 through 3 in that style, for like a new gaming audience, would be really cool. Um, they've proven that it works as a 2D Metroidvania when they did
Mm-hmm.
Mega Man ZX and ZX Advent,
Right.
which are 2 of the best Mega Man games out there. Um, I believe they are available on the Switch. If you haven't tried them, listeners, give them a try. If you're into Metroidvanias, they're some of the best. Um, yeah, so I'd absolutely love to see them like play around in this universe again. I think the mechanic of taking the boss's weapons and stuff is just so cool. Like, I mean, I think it was like an interesting 2D side scroller take on like a Zelda style game where
Right.
you unlock new things for traversal, you unlock new weapons, and then I will say that like I feel like it maybe informed Game Freak and their team on like kind of the Pokemon thing, because it was definitely like a rock paper scissors,
Sure.
probably one of the first rock paper scissors style games out there. Like I could still tell you the order to fight the bosses in Mega Man 2. I played through that so
Right.
much. Um, Little bump they only list 1 through 3 because 4 I think is my favorite Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, had some of the coolest bosses. But yeah, I mean, if we get 1 through 3, I could see 4 happening. So yeah.
So, my question for you then is, and this might be kind of a tough one.
Mhm.
We know there's some outliers in this list that are. It's like, well, yeah, obviously Resident Evil, Street Fighter. We like they're pumping those out. We just got Street Fighter 6. They're remaking every Resident Evil at this point. I'm sure we'll get even more. Maybe Code Veronica down the road. I know that's one that a lot of fans have wanted to see. But excluding those like super obvious ones that Capcom keeps pumping out, are there any on this list or within the ones that we named that you think might actually have a chance of getting some sort of remake or sequel to them? Or do you think it's uh, pretty unlikely?
So obviously, yeah, you mentioned the outliers. I think those were put in to see if like people just want their main games they're working on right now.
Right.
If those get overwhelmingly the amount of votes, I think they put these ones back on the shelf.
Yeah.
The one that I think out of all of these that has like the best chance of seeing light, and I know we got one, I don't know, was it like 4 or 5 years ago, is Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's too popular of a series for them not to revisit. I don't know if they're going to do another soft reboot or if they'll continue on the story of, was it 5, right?
Five. Yeah.
The story of 5. So that is yet to be seen. Because I know people did not like. I heard it was a good game. The reboot,
DMC.
yeah, DMC. But I know people were pissed at
Yeah.
like, new look of
Like
Dante.
the direction.
Yeah, so we will see. Ones that I think that are highly unlikely. I don't think Ghost and Goblins ever sees the light of day again. And then, sadly, fans, I don't think Dino Crisis is ever coming back.
Yeah.
The other one that I could see really, coming back because it was wildly popular, not a game for you and me. I personally don't like these games. I don't think you did either, is Dead Rising.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I know people have been clamoring for that one.
Yeah.
Because, Capcom needs to make more zombie games. They don't have enough zombie games, so.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like most of these are never gonna see the light of day, and I agree with some of your picks for like what's more likely and what's unlikely, and it pains me to say that I actually think Onimusha is pretty unlikely right now. Obviously, we did just get an Onimusha anime. I'm not sure how it performed as far as like viewership goes. I know it's pretty well rated from people who watched it. It's got pretty good reviews from fans. But depending on those numbers, I mean, who knows? Dragon's Dogma got an anime, and then we got Dragon's Dogma 2. I have no idea what type of seller the first Dragon's Dogma was. I imagine it wasn't a crazy seller, if I had to guess. But
yeah, I think it was a cult classic.
yeah, but I find
might have sold better. I'm not sure.
Right. I find Onimusha unlikely, and it pains me to say that. But who knows? Like, maybe I'm just trying not to get my hopes up. I would love to see it. I think Capcom, if they put in the resources, could make a phenomenal new entry to the series. And hey, this like Ronin samurai stuff is super in right now. Ghost of Tsushima was huge. We have Rise of the Ronin coming to the PS5. We got the Neo games from Team Ninja that are all fantastic. So I mean, if there ever was a time to bring back Onimusha, I think within this gen would be fantastic. The one that I mentioned that I actually think has a higher chance, even though it's been dormant for so long, is Okami. Like, I'm pretty sure I've read a few times that the creator of Okami has mentioned that he would be interested in making a sequel. This game's loved, and I think it sold decently. It was on a number of platforms, PS2, Wii. They gave it a nice remaster that was on Switch and PS4. I could actually see this one coming back in some form.
What is their other game that they are working on right now? Can't remember the name.
Oh, yeah, it's that weird name. It's that weird, like, origami, kind of like, it looks like a mix of Okami meets Onimusha. It's all trippy and weird. Yep.
I think that's the best we're going to get in my opinion,
Right.
Yeah. I think that those games are living on through that one. I can't remember the name, and, like, nothing online will tell me. I'm sitting here looking up upcoming Capcom games, and it's just Dragon's Dogma.
Right.
And then, like, a few sites mentioning that, there's Pragmata, and then the new Monster Hunter. That's all anyone.
Right.
I really want that. I really want to know that.
Let us know in the comments if you know what game we're talking about.
Yeah, it's killing me.
But I could even see Mega Man coming back. But
yeah,
I don't think it's going to be... my prediction is that if and when Mega Man comes back, it's not going to be like this AAA production. You know, it's going to be probably more along the lines of like a Mega Man 11, you know?
Yeah, I forgot the director's name that left a long time ago.
Yeah, he
that made
left.
Number 9. So Capcom likes to piss off good directors, and they go and the Shinji Mikami being one of them,
Mhm.
the Resident Evil. Yeah, so who knows? They are a very weird company,
They are. They
but
are.
really hope these games see the light of day.
Me too. We need some diversity. They can't just keep pumping out. It's Capcom's become Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil. Like
Yeah.
that's Capcom. And hey, they're doing a fantastic job with those games. Like they're all reviewing high, they're all selling incredibly well. But Capcom has such a diverse library of phenomenal IPs that it's sad. Like it's sad knowing that all that stuff. I mean, a lot of companies are guilty of it. You know, Nintendo certainly is. But at the very least, with Nintendo, I feel like the stuff that they are making is still pretty diverse. You know, you've got your fighter, you got your kart racer, you got your adventure game, your platformer, your strategy. So they're covering a lot of different bases with IPs, but like Capcom, I'd like to see F-Zero and I don't know, a modern take on Kid Icarus and Ice Climbers, and a better take on Star Fox that's not just trying to emulate 64 and not do well. But
Sure.
But anyways, that's the show. Collin, is there anything you wanted to add before we do our farewells?
No, I think that this week was a good discussion. I
Hell
really
yeah.
enjoyed the show.
Oh yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's GameBird Weekly. Be sure to check Collin out at any games necessary. Again, his channel is linked in the description box below. Subscribe to me if you haven't already. Hit that subscription button, smash that like and notification bell, and the two of us will see you on the next GameBird Weekly. Peace.